The world's largest oil exporter, Saudi Arabia, has faced a double blow, with the pandemic and the drop in oil prices adding pressure on state finances. And now they're seeking ways to tame the deficit. They've announced a $263 billion budget for 2021. The religious tourism industry brought $20 billion just in 2018. And so the kingdom's economy forecast to contract the most in 2 decades. World's largest oil exporter, Saudi Arabia, has been experiencing a double blow, right? They have the pandemic and their drop in oil prices. But not only that, they've also had a slowdown in foreign direct investments, which was a very important foundation to their 2030 vision. And the IMF also expected a 6.8% shrink in Saudi Arabia's economy this year. And tourism as well did have a hit, expected a 35 to 45% decrease by the end of this year. But the good news is that Saudi Arabia's domestic tourism was doing well this summer, which kind of cushions the blow for the tourism industry in Saudi Arabia. The Middle East business and tourism hub, Dubai, is facing a huge economic challenge during the pandemic. And this is why the Crown Prince of the Emirates is introducing a $408 million stimulus package, injecting it into the economy. This is one of 3 other stimulus packages introduced just in the past couple of months. This includes Iranian authorities criticizing it, as well as Turkey threatening to completely cut ties with the UAE. On the other hand, we have countries like Bahrain and Oman who have welcomed the deal, which steers speculation about the potential of other Gulf countries following suit, which is around 7% less than the estimated spending for this year. The Saudi finance minister is trying to strike an upbeat tone, saying that although the economy is set to shrink by 3.7% in 2020, it's forecast to swing back to a 3.2% growth next year. He added that most economic sectors started to recover from the pandemic's impact in the second half of this year. Authorities have rolled out a series of stimulus programs this year, including loan payment deferrals, tripling value-added tax, and raising import fees, which has helped boost a non-oil revenue. As we know, Brent oil crude prices have rebounded since plunging to a more than 20-year low in April. But they are still hovering at around $50 per barrel, which is significantly below the $67.9 per barrel that Saudi would need to balance its budget next year. The kingdom has also cut oil output this year as part of a deal with OPEC and other producers to stabilize the oil market. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Joan Muwahed. The measles are now causing serious concerns across the nation. Health officials say reports of the illness have surged this year, specifically in young children. New York accounts for 2/3 of the cases reported last week alone. There are now confirmed cases in 19 states, including California, Michigan, and New Jersey. A chemical test showed dangerous levels of lead on a playground in the Tenleytown neighborhood of Northwest DC. A pedestrian is dead after a 2-car crash in Fairfax County this morning. Fairfax police say the pedestrian suffered injuries after being struck by a car on westbound US 50 around 6 a.m. The victim's name was not released. The Secret Service blocked food from reaching protesters at the Venezuela embassy in Georgetown on Monday. Embassy protesters say being denied food is a violation of their human rights. According to court documents, a single charge of conspiracy and fraud is punishable by up to 20 years in prison. Experts say they expect parents to avoid prison time if they equally accept responsibility. Coming up, the Mueller report is set to be released next week. DC residents wait for the results. Attorney General William Barr says the Mueller report will appear in a week. Our own Ethan Smith went down to the Capitol to hear from residents regarding the report. That's your local news update. Thanks for joining us on District Wire News. I'm Joan Muwahed. We do it on average 80 times a day, at work, at play, and sometimes when we drive. Not only is that dangerous, health experts say our obsession with our mobile devices may be hurting our eyes, our posture, and even our mental health. Psychologist Larry Rosen is co-author of The Distracted Mind.
We find that people are more and more anxious today, and they're often anxious about what some people call nomophobia, not having your mobile phone around or not being able to connect, or FOMO, fear of missing out.
No one is really sure what the long-term impacts will be to a new generation raised on mobile devices and smartphone screens. But we may come to realize that instead of bringing people together, the technological marvel we call touchscreens may actually be the reason why some of us feel isolated and out of touch. Facebook says as many as 87 million users, most of them in the United States, had their data collected. That information included name, hometown, work history, educational history, along with the Facebook likes of the targeted users and their friends. The collected data was then used by Cambridge Analytica, a political firm that advises political campaigns. The data may have been used to target voters in certain geographical areas or voters with similar political views. U.S. lawmakers are still studying the data to find out how personal information from social media users was used to influence the U.S. elections. Joan Muwahed, VOA News, Washington.